Climate change is real. It's happening now. The evidence is all around us, from the melting glaciers in the Arctic to the rising sea levels threatening coastal cities. We see the smog-filled skies over our urban landscapes, a constant reminder of the pollution we generate. These are not distant, abstract concepts. They are tangible, visible changes happening in our world today. We know this. Scientists warn us with increasing urgency. They present data, give lectures, and publish reports, all pointing to the same conclusion: our planet is in danger. The scientific community has been sounding the alarm for decades, yet the response has been slow and often inadequate. Despite the clear and present danger, the necessary actions to mitigate these changes are not being taken at the scale required. We see the evidence in extreme weather events. Hurricanes, wildfires, and floods are becoming more frequent and more severe. These disasters are devastating communities, causing loss of life and property and displacing millions of people. The connection between these events and climate change is undeniable, yet our collective response remains insufficient. Yet our actions often don't match our awareness. We scroll through news articles on our phones, watch reports on TV, and feel a momentary pang of concern. But then we move on with our lives, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the problem and unsure of what we can do as individuals. This sense of helplessness and inaction is pervasive. This disconnect between knowledge and action is a paradox. We are aware of the problem, we understand the science, yet we fail to act decisively. This paradox is not just a matter of ignorance or denial. It is a complex issue rooted in human psychology and behavior. It's a puzzle that highlights the powerful role of human psychology. Our brains are wired to respond to immediate threats, but climate change is a slow-moving crisis. It requires us to think long-term and make sacrifices today for benefits that may not be immediately visible. This goes against our natural instincts. Understanding this paradox is crucial. By delving into the psychological barriers that prevent us from taking action, we can begin to find solutions. We need to explore why we struggle with issues that require long-term thinking and collective action. It's not enough to just present facts about climate change. While data and evidence are essential, they alone are not sufficient to drive action. We need to connect with people on an emotional level to make the issue personal and urgent. We need to understand why, even when we know the risks, we struggle to take action. This understanding can help us develop strategies that motivate people to change their behavior. It can help us create messages that resonate and inspire action. This is where insights from psychology, particularly cognitive biases, become essential. Cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking that affect our decisions and judgments. They are mental shortcuts that our brains use to simplify complex information. Cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking. They can lead us to underestimate risks, overvalue immediate rewards, and ignore long-term consequences. These biases are deeply ingrained and often operate unconsciously. They're like mental shortcuts that simplify our complex world. While they can be helpful in many situations, they can also lead to irrational decisions and behaviors, especially when it comes to long-term abstract challenges like climate change. However, these shortcuts can lead to irrational decisions and behaviors, especially when it comes to long-term abstract challenges like climate change. We tend to prioritize immediate concerns over future risks, making it difficult to take the necessary actions to address climate change. By recognizing these biases, we can start to overcome them and bridge the gap between awareness and action. We can develop strategies to counteract these biases, making it easier for people to make decisions that are in line with their long-term interests and the health of our planet. This is a crucial step in addressing the climate crisis and ensuring a sustainable future for generations to come. Our brains evolved to deal with immediate threats. Imagine our ancestors on the African savanna. Their survival depended on reacting quickly to a charging lion or a rival tribe. This focus on immediate dangers served us well for millennia. However, this evolutionary legacy makes it difficult to grapple with climate change. Climate change is a slow-moving, abstract threat. It doesn't trigger our instinctual alarm bells in the same way as an immediate danger. We tend to prioritize short-term gains over long-term consequences. This is known as present bias. We'd rather enjoy the convenience of driving a car today than worry about the impact of emissions on the planet decades from now. This bias towards immediate gratification makes it challenging to make sacrifices today for a better future tomorrow. And another cognitive bias that hinders our response to climate change is the tragedy of the commons. This concept, rooted in economic theory, describes a situation where individuals acting in their self-interest deplete a shared resource, even when it's not in their long-term best interest. It's a paradox where collective neglect leads to the degradation of resources that everyone depends on. The tragedy of the commons is evident in many environmental issues we face today. For instance, deforestation occurs when landowners prioritize short-term gains over the long-term health of forests. Similarly, overfishing depletes marine life, threatening the balance of aquatic ecosystems. Landfills overflow because individuals and companies prioritize convenience over sustainable waste management. The Earth's atmosphere is a classic example of a common resource. We all rely on it for clean air and a stable climate, yet it is continuously polluted by emissions from various human activities. The atmosphere doesn't belong to any one person or nation, making it a shared resource that is often taken for granted. We all benefit from a stable climate, but individuals and corporations are often tempted to overuse it by emitting greenhouse gases. Industrial activities, transportation, and energy production are major contributors to this problem. The convenience and economic benefits of these activities often overshadow the long-term environmental costs. People often think, my individual actions won't make a difference. This mindset is pervasive and leads to a lack of personal accountability. When people believe their actions are insignificant, they are less likely to adopt environmentally friendly habits. Yet, when multiplied across billions of people, these seemingly insignificant actions accumulate into a global crisis. Small acts of negligence, such as littering, idling cars, or using single-use plastics, collectively contribute to significant environmental degradation. This bias is compounded by a sense of powerlessness. Many people feel that the problem is too vast for their individual efforts to have any meaningful impact. This sense of helplessness can be paralyzing and discourages proactive behavior. People feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem and believe their actions won't matter. The enormity of climate change and environmental issues can be daunting, making it difficult for individuals to see how their small actions fit into the larger picture. This can lead to apathy and inaction, further exacerbating the tragedy of the commons. When people disengage, it creates a vicious cycle where the lack of individual action contributes to the worsening of the problem, making collective solutions even harder to achieve. Section 4. The power of now-present bias and future consequence. Present bias is a powerful psychological force that shapes our decisions. We heavily discount future rewards in favor of immediate gratification. This tendency is deeply ingrained in our neurobiology. Think about how difficult it is to resist a delicious dessert, even when we know it's not good for our health. The immediate pleasure often outweighs the long-term consequences. Climate change operates on a much larger scale, but the underlying psychology is similar. We struggle to make sacrifices today, like reducing our carbon footprint, for benefits that may not be fully realized for decades. Our brains are wired to prioritize the here and now, making it difficult to fully grasp the urgency of a distant threat like climate change. Section 5. Nudging towards sustainability. How companies use psychology. While our brains may be wired to focus on the present, the good news is that psychological principles can also be harnessed to encourage pro-environmental behavior. Companies are increasingly aware of the power of psychology in shaping consumer habits and decisions. By understanding the underlying motivations and cognitive biases that drive human behavior, they can design interventions that promote sustainability. This is not just about selling products, it's about creating a culture of environmental responsibility. Energy-saving companies are at the forefront of this approach. They are pioneering innovative methods to reduce energy consumption and promote sustainable living. These companies are not just focusing on technological solutions, but are also investing in understanding human behavior. By doing so, they can create more effective strategies that resonate with people's daily lives and routines. They understand that simply providing information about climate change is not enough to change behavior. People are often overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem and feel powerless to make a difference. This is where psychology comes into play. By breaking down the information into manageable and relatable pieces, companies can make the issue more approachable and actionable for individuals. Instead, they're using insights from behavioral economics and psychology to nudge people towards more sustainable choices. This involves understanding the cognitive biases that influence decision-making, such as the tendency to favor immediate rewards over long-term benefits. By designing interventions that align with these biases, companies can make sustainable choices more appealing and easier to adopt. One effective strategy is to leverage social norms. Social norms are the unwritten rules that govern behavior in a group. They are powerful motivators because people generally want to fit in and be accepted by their peers. By highlighting sustainable behaviors as the norm, companies can encourage more people to adopt these practices. People are more likely to engage in a behavior if they believe it's common and socially acceptable. This is why campaigns that showcase widespread participation in sustainable activities can be so effective. When people see their friends, family, and neighbors making eco-friendly choices, they are more likely to follow suit. Energy companies use this principle by providing customers with information about their energy consumption compared to their neighbors. This simple comparison can have a significant impact. When people see that they are using more energy than their peers, they are often motivated to reduce their consumption to match or beat the average. This social comparison can motivate people to reduce their energy use, especially if they're consuming more than average. It's a subtle but powerful way to encourage behavior change without the need for heavy-handed regulations or financial incentives. The desire to conform to social norms and avoid being seen as wasteful can drive significant reductions in energy use. No one wants to be the energy hog on the block. This fear of social disapproval can be a strong motivator for change. By tapping into this psychological principle, companies can encourage more sustainable behavior in a way that feels natural and intuitive to people. By tapping into our desire to conform and our aversion to social disapproval, energy companies can nudge people towards more sustainable choices. This approach not only benefits the environment, but also helps individuals feel more connected to their communities and more in control of their impact on the planet. It's a win-win situation that demonstrates the power of psychology in driving positive change.